I start to kind of like focus on all of those little details and they start to pop out at me in my videos and I'm like, oh my God. Ah, I was noticing with those mics, I was getting this clicking noise. And it's like some
Mm.
people get that clicking noise and other people don't. And I don't know what it is.
Okay, strange.
Very strange, but
Yeah.
part of what we're doing here, I guess. So,
Yeah, and it's also the thing because if we keep on delaying our video recording, there's always something to work on, right? So I
right.
think it's a good thing that you keep on recording and keep on posting because otherwise we wouldn't start if we would be perfect, have to be perfect, right? So it's a good thing. You're doing great. It's amazing, and I love your setup.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you for saying that. I think recently I've had a shift in the way that I'm looking at things, or at least something is coming up for me that is I'm seeing very clearly that I'm focusing much more on the aesthetic now than I used to, and it's affecting my content and it's affecting my flow, it's affecting my creativity, it's affecting my connection, you know?
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And absolutely right. You know, I was talking to you about the Sophia Code, and this author, she's amazing, Kyra. She talks about beauty and how beauty affects our well-being, and we have to take care of our external environment as well, because like your home, it should be really a sanctuary where everything you see is has a purpose, and even if it's only for a beauty purpose, it's really doing something to our soul, right? When everything is needy and tight and has purpose and looks beautiful, it's amazing, really.
The synchronicity of this conversation is tearing me up a little bit. I literally, I'm not kidding you, about an hour before jumping on, was having this exact conversation about an entirely different aspect of my life with my mother, talking about the floors in my house and how I need them to be clean because it does something for me. There's this saying, cleanliness is next to godliness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I
Wow.
agree. I agree with what you're saying. Like it's so true. It's like it's an anchor. For me, it acts as a kind of anchor, you know,
Yeah.
when the waves and the turbulence of the world is so overwhelming. It's like I've got this one little thing that I could nail down, and it's like, yes, it's clean. My space is clean. And you're right. It's like it opens it opens something for me.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
right. You're right.
And how wonderful that you had this conversation just now. I mean, synchronicity is, I mean, this is divine, right?
It happens all the time to me. You
Yeah. You know, that's because you are opening up even more every day. You're doing your work, your energetic work. So more synchronicities will show up in your life in
Yeah.
every shape or form. That's so wonderful.
Yeah,
Really.
it's so funny how the old paradigm in me like wants to gaslight me and say, no, those things don't matter, right? Those things, oh, it's just you're just thinking too much into it, or you know, and it's so funny because you feel that blockage, as soon as you go there, you feel this disconnection from the mystery.
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
for me, it's like I've seen so clearly that that mystery is everything for me. That is my connection is essentially admitting to myself and to the universe that I don't know anything, that I am a vessel, that I'm not doing this on my own in any way, shape, or form. I'm here, use me in any way you can. And you're right, it's that renewal. For me, it's a constant renewal, and sometimes daily, sometimes incrementally throughout the day. I'm going through and I'm refreshing that message, that reason why I'm doing any of this. I don't know if you've had that experience where that negativity kind of comes in and it shadows. I'm sure you have. You're creating, you're putting yourself out there.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. And I really it's really like sinking into me that the mystery school is our everyday life. So we are constantly triggered by situations, by people, and um I made a video about this as well, a short video, because back in the day we used to go to a monastery, or perhaps still now we would go to meditate on a mountain or whatever. And sure, that's okay. If it's your thing, you really should do it. But I think the experience of the divine and connecting to our higher selves and to God source, whatever you want to call it, is interwoven with this 3D life. We can't like see it separately. And that's why it's so great to embrace this 3D life in our bodies, and but also the triggering elements in our life. Because we are like recording videos, and how many times did you like bump into a situation where there is loud and noise around you, or a neighbor is cutting a tree, or your kids are making, there's also, and we have to really stay focused and do it anyways, but it's so sometimes so hard to follow our divine path when we are human beings. But yeah, we chose this life, right? So
Yeah,
got to
yeah.
deal with it. Yeah.
Such a beautiful jump off point, already getting into the flow of things. I knew this conversation would be like this.
Yeah.
I could feel it. Just your energy comes through your videos.
Mm.
Maybe for the sake of structure, because I could go just forever just talking
Me too.
about nothing, it's so fun. Why don't you tell me a little bit about who you are, right?
Hmm.
This will be sort of a snapshot, and then we can kind of dive into the details of things in a little bit. But who you are and what it is that you do.
Yeah, well, I think it's an interesting question, and I think it's already hard to answer because who am I really? Well, like you, I'm having this human experience as a starseed, as a multidimensional being, and according to Dolores Cannon, I'm a second waver. So I was born in 1975. I was born in Holland, the Netherlands, Europe, and yeah, I was really, my childhood wasn't always that easy, and that's also common for Starseed because we are light workers and we tend to incarnate in sometimes darker energies or darker places. Um, but I'm very optimistic by default, so that made me go through life. And of course, everyone is on a journey, and it's sometimes hard to deal with a 3D life because I used to tend to uh, wanting to connect to the higher beings, right? To the angels, archangels, and ascended masters. I didn't know the name by back then. And when I was 23, I was really in a state of almost like burned out already. And I had my first regression session. And in this life, she took me to a life in Scotland, and which made everything so much sense because I'm drawn to the colder countries. I also lived in Austria, and I love like the Scandinavian countries. I love Canada, snowy mountains, put me there and I'm good. So it really made a lot of sense that had a life in Scotland. And after that, my spiritual journey started really. So I was diving into different modalities. And even though I was raised Roman Catholic, I didn't have that connection with the Bible. And I loved going to churches, but in my own way. And I don't like anyone telling me what to do and what I can't do. And so I'm a little bit rebellious in that part. And I think religion can be great for people, right? So I'm not like mocking that because we're all on a journey, and religion is really a great way to connect to the divine in your own way. So and then I took some shamanic courses and also different spiritual classes. And during one of those classes, it was about connecting to the angels and spiritual guides. And suddenly, Jesus came to me, and the teacher at that time, he had a previous life 2,000 years ago. And I was also there, and it really frightened me so much. I was really terrified of anyone finding out. And that was, of course, because my life was ended as well because of me being a part of that group, the Essenes. I came to know later that they were called the Essenes. Um, but during my when I had my children, I have three boys with my husband. My spiritual path came, yeah, slowed down a bit because I was really absorbed with yeah, being a mom and things like that. And later on, every time, so now and then I picked it up again, and then synchronicities happened. I would remember all of the sudden past lives, other past lives, and it really always had my interest, really. So I dove into shamanic rituals with Santeria. I don't know if you heard of that. It's like a sort of voodoo. So it really helped me a lot because even with not only the really spiritual part, but also with contracts, and the ancestors really helped me out a lot, and they predicted my third child, and it was really a lot. And also because my husband is not really of these things, and so we had a lot of fights about that. And I think a lot of starseeds and light workers can maybe relate to that because your environment is not always understanding your path and what you're going through and the dreams that I had. And I just knew things, and but it's really hard to explain. And but we managed to to work it out. One of the things I really did was trying to convince him, well, this is really true. And he was like, no, because he's very rational, but he's also very empathetic. So it was really hard, but now we found our mode, it's I'm not convincing him anymore. And he sometimes looks at me like when I'm talking about dragons or gnomes or mermaids, whatever. He's like, okay. So he accepts it now. So that's really great. And I had readings with Debbie Solaris. You must have heard of her. She's amazing as well. And she took me back to off-planet lives. So that was really interested for me because I always had a sense that when I looked to the stars, I felt homesick. I really could feel my body hurting, and I didn't know why. I couldn't explain it. And then I came because, yeah, Yeshua, I prefer to call him Yeshua instead of Jesus because it really emphasizes his human aspect, really, really for me. However, it doesn't really matter at the end, I think. So, but he was the first of what I call the family of light. He appeared to me several times after that, and I came to embrace the fact that, yeah, that I was there, and I was. I'm getting a little bit emotional because it's really, the crucifixion and think that it was really a hard moment for a lot of people, not only for me. But um, then when I jump forward a bit, last no, not November, but August, last August, I was I got a concussion because a heavy bottle of Coca-Cola fell on my head. And it really had to happen because what happened was that Mary Magdalene came to me. She was part of my family of light because my family of light, there are four ascended masters, two masculine and two feminine. So Mother Mary, Mother Mary Magdalene, Joseph of Arimathea. I didn't know nothing about him, but he appeared as well, and Yeshua. So she came to me and she said, I want you to do a Starseed activation with Black Friday because this was August, Black Friday was November. And I was too busy and I had to put down literally. So that's why my concussion happened. And I couldn't do anything for like several weeks, but she told me that it was good to do this activation. So I did this activation and I channeled everything because I learned how to channel within the space of the Akashic records. And this space for me is really a space of truth and wisdom, and with the archangels and my galactic council and also members of the order of Melchizedek or the White Brotherhood of Light, they are really helping. And for me, it's of course there are a lot of ways to tune in to the divine, but for me, within the space of the Akashic records is the most easiest to do. So yeah, I learned how to read the Akashic records, and it's really fun to do because it opens up a lot more. It's so creative, and it every time you dive into the records, you get more information about things you didn't know before. So it's really amazing. Yeah, so now every day I'm connected, and yeah, I'm serving clients through the Akashic records by reading them, their soul history, what they've been up to, what their divine mission is, what they in what realms they were trained by the archangels, and yeah, things like that. It's amazing to do. Yeah.
Yeah, the Akashic Records thing fascinates me to no end. It's only been within the last couple of years that I think, had the guts, the courage to really look into stuff like that in more than just a superficial way.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised very conventional fundamentalist Christian, and a large part of that for me was very traumatic. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
how so?
in the sense that much of the um, much of the church believes in, the demonic and, the devil. And so these things for me have always been, when you're a child and you hear that monsters are real,
Mm,
that demons are a real thing and that they can attack you, and I'm hearing preachers talk about this stuff, and all of the authority figures in my life basically, um, almost like running scared, and this vague sort of protection that we have, we'll just pray and cast demons out. And it was all very confusing for me as a kid. I had no idea what any of that stuff was. Part of what they would talk about a lot was the occult, right? And how it
hmm.
was a no-go.
Yeah,
Absolutely, you know, um, as soon as you open up that door, you're opening yourself up to dark entities that you have no idea what their intentions are, and they hate you and they want to hurt you. Um, and so for me, there's always just been this real mental block, or maybe even a spiritual block there for me, um, in even looking at that stuff because of the fear of just becoming possessed, in a very Hollywood type of way, and it
sure. Yeah.
wasn't until I think my spiritual awakening that was away from the church. It was kind of severed from the church. In fact, that was part of my spiritual awakening, was sort of breaking away from the church, finding my own sovereignty, finding my own agency with God, and coming to my own understanding of God, that things like this began to really open up. And I began to sort of see, oh wow, like the dogma of the church that I grew up with is very, very rigid, and it produces a very, very specific type of product. I use that word
Yeah.
intentionally, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the meaning of it. That's intentionally, you know. They
Yeah.
want to disempower you and put your faith and your power outside of yourself. Because as soon as we realize as a species that we are divine, that we are some parts of the Bible are true, like we are the exact image and likeness of the divine, whatever you want to call it. As soon as we are realizing this and we're going to really embody it, then all the BS power is gone. It's gone. And all
Yeah.
the churches and all the dogmas, they are really set up to keep you small. And that's exactly the purpose of it. So it's very brave and courageous of you that you managed to get out.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm 45. It's taken me a long time just to be able to work through that energy. For me, a lot of it came through the use of psychedelics,
Mm-hmm.
because you're sort of forced to go through the bad trip. You're sort of
Mm-hmm.
forced to go through the blockages, and what I saw and still see today is so much of I, I have a hard time articulating this. I'm still working on putting it into words, but it's almost as though, I think you'll understand what I'm saying. It's almost as though for every word that I speak, for everything that I do in the material, in the 3D, as you put it, there is a counterpart to that in the spiritual realm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There is,
Yeah.
so for me not being able to speak about this, right, in the 3D, in the spiritual realm or the energetic realm, however you want to conceptualize it, there is a blockage. There's an energetic blockage where, and in psychology, you could say there's a fragmentation of my mind, right? There's a split where
Yeah.
there's this hard wall or firewall that sort of blocks me off from that part of my being, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think where I was going with that is when I would go through these, psychedelic, uh, I don't know what you would call them, sessions, I guess,
Yeah.
sitting, and going through these energetic knots is what they
Mm-hmm.
felt like. For me, it was like, I could much more easily see them.
Yeah, you could go through them very easily because it's really like a heart reset button or something like
Yes,
that. And
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And so
interesting.
working through that stuff for me was a big piece in realizing, oh, wait a second, hold on. This entire doctrine, not the entirety of it, because like you said, Jesus is Yeshua's words, right? To me that is the gold, and you can
Mm-hmm.
see it. You can see it. And especially after having an awakening, it's like it comes out in 3D for you. You're like, oh, there it is. I see exactly what he was pointing to with the use of metaphor and words, and we just take it so literal, right? But my whole point, and I'll stop rambling after this, but my whole
No,
point,
I love it. Listen to
thank you.
it.
My whole point is that, it took me a while to kind of break through those knots, but once I did, I saw, oh wow, there's so much safety in my being. There's so much safety in the presence that I feel here. And falling back into that and surrendering to that for me has been just a life-changing, life-altering experience.
Wow, beautiful. Yeah, that's so beautiful. Because if you can, yeah, it's also a part of really self-knowledge, self-care, self-love, and you can really trust yourself.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's all it's I think that's the goal, to really see ourselves as the connection with the earth and the divine. And it's so beautiful that you had this experience. Did you do it in one session? Did you have the epiphany in one session?
Oh no, this has been over the last probably 10 years. Um, I don't use psychedelics anymore just because uh, well, there's a part of me that I feel like I broke through enough to where
Hmm.
I got it now. Like I got
Yeah,
the message, and
yeah.
I am an addict, and so there is a part of me that wants to, like you used the narrative earlier of, bringing our souls, bringing our spirituality into the 3D realm. There's a part of me that wants to stay in the womb, in the abyss, in just bathed in love and never come back. There's a part of me that wants to do that. And
Yeah.
I I catch that part of myself, and I think that is sort of the crux of my addiction is I want to return home.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
talked about your soul aching looking at the stars. I feel that in a very real way. There's a very real part of me that just wants to return back to that place of wholeness, and you almost can't have that completely in this realm, it seems, right? You've got to bring parts of that back, but you also have to experience, and for me, this has been a big learning piece. You also have to experience what it is like to live with the separation in the human experience, right? And you see it, you see your actions in a completely different light. You see your past, your history, your words that you've spoken in anger, and the things you did out of survival just to try to get back to that place of wholeness. You see those things in a different light, or at least I do, right? And
Yeah.
um, I think for me, like that has been a real eye opener. Like I said, the psychedelics for me is like I think I'm done,
Hmm.
unless I felt really drawn toward it in a spiritual way. I think I've gotten the message, and as Terence McKenna, I don't know, maybe it wasn't Terence McKenna, maybe it was Ram Dass. Somebody said, when you get the message, hang up the phone. You know.
Yeah, 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 sure. I mean, you cracked it up enough, you're opened enough, and now you can walk, you're on your path already. So, yeah, it's interesting that you were describing, as I call it, the cosmic birth pain, because I think eventually all longings and maybe addiction as well is part of us not accepting or even not knowing the cosmic birth pain. Because when our soul left the source, then we were on our own. And I always like to make the analogy of being dumped into the jungle with no GPS, no food, no clothing, and you're on your own, buddy. And we have to find and navigate our way back. And it's also really like funny because we're never left alone. The divine was never is never leaving us. It can be because we are part of the divine. So, but we came through the veil of forgetfulness, and we have the illusion that we are separate from God or whatever. And yeah, so when you say that you grew up in this environment, how did your family and your, if you want to talk about that, reacted to you removing yourself from that, yeah, that scenery? Did
Yeah,
they
so
accept it?
no, initially it was met with just a very guarded sort of affect. And um, I think my awakening was so radical and instantaneous. My initial awakening, I think because I had lived my life for so long in misalignment. And when I say
Hmm.
misalignment, I mean like I was in hell,
Hmm.
and living in that hell for so long when I finally saw the illusion break,
Hmm.
excuse me, for the first time, it changed me so radically. It put me in almost a manic headspace because it was like I tasted hope for the first time ever,
Hmm.
you know,
Wow.
and it was
Yeah.
just like, oh, it's not, this is all bullshit. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
saw so clearly my limitless potential and all of our limitless potential. And I saw how fake the limitation was and how imposed it was on us and how we could break through that. And I started putting it into action. And the synchronicities, like we talk about synchronicities, were exploding. It
Wow.
was, I thought for a minute, I was like, I'm losing my mind.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then other people started pointing out things, and I was like, yes, you're seeing it too. So
Yeah.
I was very kind of reserved around my family initially. My mom um, was, I think, the person, I think my mom has one foot. I think all of the women in my family, the men are more buckled down and as men typically are, right? We're more
Yeah.
rational, logical, right? Like you mentioned your husband, right? Very similar in my family. But the women have always had spiritual gifts in my family, right? And so
Wow.
they talk about them, in terms of like having premonitions through dreams and just being open. The women came cracked open. And I don't know if that's something women just come naturally, I think, much more intuitively
Yeah. Yeah.
than men,
Most of the
right?
time. That's why it's so amazing that you as a man are on this path and bringing it out to the world. It's amazing because
Yeah.
not a lot of men are doing this.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, that's been a real hurdle for me, is
Hmm.
I feel like I don't fit in with most men. I feel like men will either they fear me because they don't know where my strength is coming from, and the
Right?
currency that I'm working with is not the typical masculine, I'm going to show off and I'm going to buy a badass car, or I'm going to, right? Like those all used to be, that used to be my thing. that was how I garnered respect from the men around me, from everybody around me. At least so I thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to come back into the world of masculinity and sort of having learned to breathe underwater, so to speak, right? And it's like
Yeah.
all of these masculine traits now, I just see, and when I say masculine traits, I mean the pretend masculine, right? Like
Yeah. The
masculine
macho.
energy is absolutely necessary. We need it. We need structure. But yeah,
Sure. Yeah.
exactly. The machismo, the guardedness, I don't want to appear
Provider.
too soft. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
coming back into that, it sort of rolls off my back now. Um, I've seen that it's not true. It's not real. And I hadn't seen that in a lot of ways. Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent. My family was very, very guarded initially, very, very guarded. My grandmother especially she would circle back around on me every time I would talk to her about anything. She's like the matriarch of the family. She's very spiritual, very, very fundamentalist Christian though, and I think it blocks her in a lot of ways. But she would circle back around and talk about, just as long as it's coming from Jesus. And in my mind, I'm like, like, what are you blocking yourself up? Like, first of all, what do we even mean by saying as long as it's coming from Jesus? Like,
Yeah.
Jesus the name, Jesus the man, Jesus the body? Like, what exactly are we referring to here? To me, I've seen on a deeper level, spirit is spirit, right?
Yeah.
And we're part of that spirit. And so to open up to that spirit is you are opening up to Christ, the Christ energy, you
Yeah.
to love. God is love,
Yeah.
you
That's
know,
it.
and it's so simple. And so like, yeah, I totally went off in 100 different directions there, but I think to answer your question, it was it was not met with it wasn't warmly received and happily just, yeah, you're on the right path. It was more like, okay, you're losing your mind, or what are you talking about? Is this new age? Like, what is all this? Slowly but surely over time, I think like my brother is in Alcoholics Anonymous, the big, a big central theme of AA is finding a God of your understanding and being in the present moment and relinquishing control. And all of those are sort of tenets of what you find on the path.
Hmm.
But I should ask you the same question, like when you first cracked open, I know you said you experienced stuff when you were younger, but then when you really started diving into this, and you were bringing this back to your family, to your community, what was the reception? What was the response for you?
Well, I wasn't exactly met with a lot of enthusiasm myself as well, because most people still in my environment don't really understand what I'm talking about. And my friends always say, I don't understand you. And so I come to terms with it because I pick my own people. You are part of my own people as well, because we can talk on a whole different level. It's not better. We are not better by any means, but it's different. So I come to terms with people not understanding what I'm doing, and that's okay because when I was in elementary school, one of the teachers used to say, "Well, with your friend, you don't do everything with the same friend, but with some you go swimming, with the other you go do something else." So that's how I look at with my friends. I really can talk about this. Some they are very, very receptive of it, and I have this amazing teacher. Her name is Natasha. She's also on YouTube, Cosmic Empress, and she is amazing. And she and I are in contact on a daily basis, and we are really like connecting and resonating so much. And I tend to pick people like that to talk about these subjects. And one of my downfalls was I think that I was trying to con convince people, and you shouldn't be doing that because then you're like a newborn Christian, right? Because if someone talks about God and the Bible all day to me, I'm getting annoyed as well. So I'm really sensitive for people who are open and they can ask me anything and I can talk about it always. But if they're not, that's also fine, you know? So then the conflict is gone.
I love
Because I
that.
think it's also a controlling mechanism, right? To try to convince people. And I really turned my back to the spiritual community a little bit because they are full of dogmas and you should be acting like this and you should be eating like that. And I'm not having it. So so I think it's sort of a transition from uh, being spiritually active to rather galactic or cosmic. Because I don't like the dogmas in any kind of setting. So
I'm with you. I love that you mentioned that, the dogma. And the spiritual community too. Like that was a big disillusionment for me is like, number one, like coming back to your point about, spreading the news of what you found and trying to convince people like your best friends because you feel like, my God, we've been so close our whole lives. Surely they will understand this. Surely they will get it. And you
mm,
bring it to them and it's just boop, and you're like, oh, and it's so heartbreaking at a certain stage. But I think we all
yeah,
have to kind of go through that, is like
yeah,
seeing, oh, wait, hold on. Like everybody is on their own path for a reason. We all have our own karma and it is unique as our fingerprints,
exactly.
and we pick things up when we are ready to be receptive to those things.
Sure, and also each in their own unique way, because God has like spread itself through numerous ways of trying to reach you and talk to you, whether it's music or the arts or you name it. Even the mundane tasks can be really divine, you know. So it would be very arrogant of me to talk to a person to say you have to believe in this, because then these religions are already making these mistakes, right? To really judge each other because some people are eating pork and other ones they eat beef, or that is stupidity on the lowest level. I think we should really not care about these things. And but it's a process. You can't force it. You can't force people to look at it like this. So
Yeah, I
we
look
have
back
to.
on so many times where I was really, really just trying. And like you said, it's a control mechanism. Like you finally see that. You're like, oh, wait, okay. I was trying to, and again, with empathy, like I was trying to fill my life up with this fellowship, with this communion, because it really is on a different level. Like you see, oh my God, like you said, it's not better, it's not worse. It's like, it just comes down to like dropping our guard. It's not a becoming. It's not like, hey, come up here so you can ascend like me. It's more like, can we just let this go? Can we be vulnerable together? Can we drop
Mhm.
the separation and just commune? Such a beautiful thing when you experience it. Like it sort of brings me to a good point. You've started a community, right, of people, as I understand it, right? You've got a community, online community that you sort of moderate or you're part of, or maybe you started.
Yeah, I did start it, and I was thinking about really growing this community. But then I had really like a little epiphany where I was like, I'm maybe too complicated right now. I should bring it back to simplicity and really work on one channel, and that is YouTube, and really to regain my focus on reading Akashic Records readings instead of doing a course and doing this in a community. And I think it's too distractive. I really have to bring it back to the basics. So I really passed this community and I'm focusing on my YouTube channel and really reading Akashic Records readings. Yeah.
Another synchronicity.
Really? Oh my goodness. Tell me all about it.
I deleted TikTok last night
Oh
and
wow.
and I'm working on deleting Instagram. I'm not sure if I'm going to, but for this same exact reason, I'm spread
Yeah.
too thin. I'm focused on the social media aspects like marketing, and I'm like, oh, this has really taken on a form that I didn't anticipate. It's not it's not cut from the same cloth. I feel it. It's a completely different, it's like a business oriented. oh, this didn't get the views that I wanted it to get. What Instagram? They're shadow banning me. Like I'm just constantly like obsessing over these numbers. And I'm like, I would just like to bring it back to YouTube. YouTube,
Yeah.
and for me, it's like a palette. It's just like I'll just go on there and I'll paint. And if it hits, it hits. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. It's just so funny that you say that, it's so
Like we prepared this in advance, right?
uh you know
Oh,
what?
wow.
I wanted to ask you about something, and if you don't feel comfortable talking about it, that's okay. Um, and we can edit this whole thing. And I think what I'm doing, I talked to you a little bit in our DM today about I'm veering away from the idea of a podcast, only because I say that with my brand new microphone and my little studio. But I think like the idea of a podcast is so restrictive for me.
Mm,
You know what I
mm,
mean? It's
yeah.
almost like, okay, well, if I have a podcast, then I have to have an episode that comes out this week and one, in 3 weeks from now, and I have to stay on schedule, and I have to start reaching out to different people, and it just comes with its own like baggage that I don't really like. Just like you said, like I feel like I want to go back to basics. I want to connect with people who want to connect. I don't want to connect in the sense of, oh, this person would make good views. This would be really
Mm,
good for the algorithm. Like, yuck,
yeah.
what am I doing?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, that's so amazing. Oh, speaking of synchronicity, and I think with this new mindset and this new yeah, work ethic, I don't know, the right people will come to us. It's not about um, pushing and changing, and really the old structure, the sort of disorder, dysfunctional is it maybe a harsh word, but that's the male masculine energy that we don't want, because I've also have masculine energy, and I always think about there are four types of energies, right? There's this good feminine energy, but also the bad feminine energy, and also with masculinity. And I think trying to push and trying to really focus on the numbers and on the sales, and it's not about that anymore. We are creating a new world, and we are all on our divine path. And I think when we are stepping up, the people who are in need of what we have to offer will come to us. And the more people are opening up and developing, us light workers have I think an important job to do. To I think in the end it's all about that. I don't want to be nobody's guru, because I don't believe in a concept like that. And I think I see my role purely as um, I'm letting someone uh, hold a mirror, so someone can see their own light and their own divinity. For a while I'll work with you, and then you're going to do your own thing in your own way with your own gifts and skills. And it's not about following me or doing what I have to say. I just remind you of who you are for a bit. That's really how I see it. And everyone is a light worker in the end. We are all going to go on that path. That's my belief. And yeah,
I
it's a
agree.
beautiful.
I
Yeah,
kind of agree more, right? Like we're all sort of like Ramdas said, we're all walking each other home. You know,
yeah, exactly.
that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's so true because at the end, like I said, it's an unbecoming, right? It's stripping off all of the nonsense, all of the armor that we keep on us, to prevent us from that communion, from the vulnerability. Why? Because that opens us up to attack, right? Like the fear based, like you said, coming from a place of lack, that toxic masculine energy where you're coming in and, oh, I have to get this, I have to. What would it mean to drop all that? What would it mean, right? I had a question and I kind of veered off, of course. ADHD, but I like 100 different. I have so
I
much
love
to
it.
talk about.
Yeah, maybe we should do another episode.
I fully agree. I would be sincerely, because I've got to be off by 12 anyways, but 12
Hmm.
my time, but I would love that. I want to put a flag in this and a place market, and then I'm going to ask you my question. But I would love to talk to you about that community piece, like even off the record. Like how important that is to you, how it's been, um, beacons sort of light. You use the term light workers, I use the term a lot. These people are beacons on our path, right? And it's how critical it is to have these conversations right there, right here, right?
Hmm.
Because it's almost like you said, the mirror, and that mirror when you're on the path, and it is so treacherous at times, and isolating and lonely and dark at times, right? As you're
Yeah.
shedding all of these comforts, right? Like how critical it is to have that mirror held up every once in a while by somebody who sees you, truly sees you, and what a healing experience that is,
Yeah,
So
exactly.
experience.
Yeah, you described it perfectly. That is what the way you describing it. It's the way I look at it as well, and and that's why I'm always a firm believer in developing my own personal uh, yeah, self mastery, the way you want to call it, because you're never done learning and experiencing, right? People tend to call me, yeah, you're the eternal student. And that's why, because I love gaining new knowledge and also doing something with it, right? And I love reading and I love developing myself. And because I'm never done, I'm never like, I know it all now and I don't have to regain any more new information. No, not in the contrary, keep on developing. That's, I think it's very important to do. And you keep opening up yourself to new ideas as well and meeting new people. This is really important, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I go back to that thing where I was talking about, having for everything in the 3D, there's a correlate in the spiritual realm, or the 5D, you could say, and being a perpetual student for me is nothing more than staying open, staying receptive, staying in the receptive energy, staying open to the mystery, and
Exactly.
and in the spiritual realm, that is the fluidity. That is full transparency, right? And just flowing versus, getting sucked into that contraction and nope, this is who I am, and I'm a spiritual guy, and this is my podcast, and I need to have 100,000 followers and all those things. Like, oh my gosh. Okay, my question to you. You mentioned um, your husband being sort of coming from a more logical, rational place. And you are you are on the extreme side, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I'm there with you. So I say that, I say
Yeah.
that with some camaraderie, but how difficult has it been to sort of live in that space, or cohabitate, or be in a partnership with someone who, maybe just can't access that dimension?
So you're asking me how did we manage to get to this point that is acceptable on both ends? Well, my husband and I are together for over 22 years, so we know each other inside and out, of course. We had children together, and we had a lot of arguments about this because he's not, he finds it very frightening and things like that. And I think as soon as we came to the point that we were accepting of each other's ideas without convincing the other, then all the tension would be gone because um, I think it's the same with the COVID era because I was like really against all the measures and
Yeah, the measures to
rules.
yeah, to
Yeah,
get, yeah, the
yeah,
shots and the isolation and
yeah, exactly. And my father, he was on the other side, but he told me, I don't, we are not going to let this divide us. So it's really uh, also about consciously taking a stand that if you love someone, you are allowed to have different opinions. However, some opinions are very hard to come over to come on terms with. I mean, if you look at sports or politics or religion, these are very tense topics. It's very hard to really have an opposite opinion and to have a romantic relationship. Imagine someone on the conservative side who was a Trump fan has to be living with someone of the other parties. It's almost not possible, you know. But you can come over if you really drop your ego and don't want to be right, then it's doable, and we are the proof of that. And yeah, it's so funny because right before we had this like technical issue, and I helped him, and he was not at all like in a mood or had an attitude that he knew what we were going to talk about, but he's okay with it. Yeah, and I'm okay with him not being. Um, yeah, well, I wish I could share these things with him. On the other hand, he also helped me ground a lot.
Mm,
So the balance was really there as well. So
yeah.
I think it wouldn't be great for me if he was like woohoo, also up there, you know. So we balance each other out. So that's also a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, I hear that. And number one, I think it's super really beautiful, right? Like that you can come together, you can balance those energies, and those energies balance each other out, right? Like you balance him in a way, right? You keep him from being too grounded in logic and rationality and too literal, right? It's like opening up and having some of that whimsy, that whimsical sort of, whatever you want to call it, the spirit, right?
You know, one of the issues I had, I was like, if you are rejecting spirituality, you are basically rejecting me because this is who I am. I'm basically spirituality, right? So it was very hard for me to wrap my head around that it was possible for him to love me and at the same time reject this part of me. And you have to level at some point, right? Otherwise, you can't be in a romantic relationship. And for me, it's like he's a musician, so he's very in tune with his feelings and his heart energy, and he's a very compassionate and loving person. So that's really what I need for someone to be married with as well. So, and if it's not, he believes in energy and eternal energy that goes on and on. So he describes it. I told myself he describes it in a different way than I would have done. However, I can see that he is well. He wasn't brought up with a God as well. As well, he wasn't brought up with a God. So I think it's for him. He doesn't like the idea of a religion, but he believes in the power of love, basically. And for me, that's really like that's really necessary to be engaged in on a romantic level, I think.
My YouTube channel is called the Fire of Truth,
Yeah.
right? Because truth at a certain point, it burns away everything that's not true, right?
Yeah. Oh, great.
You
Yeah.
know?
Lovely chosen.
Yeah, and in a way, it's like that hurts in a lot of ways, right? Like you don't want the truth to burn away everything, right? I want to keep this
No.
house. At a certain point in my life, I didn't want to lose that other job. I didn't want to lose this group of friends, but it's so interesting to me how at a certain point in your life, it really just takes over.
Mm-hmm.
Like the spiritual path opens up and it just pulls you in. It's like a vortex.
Yeah, there's no way back.
There's no
there's
way
no
back.
way you can ever go back, and you don't want to, but it really comes along with saying goodbye to situations, people, especially people, and yeah, that's tough. And what you were saying, I can understand because of course you can adjust to some level, but you can never really change yourself and you abandon your own spirit, right?
I think going back to one of the things that I talked about earlier, with um, the fear that the church kind of imparted in me and others, who've grown up in a real conservative fundamentalist environment. A lot of people would say that when we tune into something like the Akashic records, we are susceptible to being our space, our mental space, our spiritual space being invaded by entities, who have not the greatest intent, who want to harm us, who want us to, um, yeah, I think I've said enough
The
there.
false light.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And how do you discern? Have you encountered things like that in doing what you do? How do you discern what is what? Is all of that just nonsense? Can you trust this process completely?
Yeah, well, before I enter the records, I make sure I create a safe space, which is guarded by archangels, also the family of light, so Yeshua, Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, and Joseph of Arimathea. And I also invoke very powerful animal spirits, because especially golden dragons, the golden dragons of Meldeck, there are actually six that I invoke. And they are very powerful because dragons are the most powerful beings in our universe. That's why the offsprings of dragons, they made a bad choice, and they went into how the draconians, they are, their ancestors are of a dragon lineage. So you can imagine how powerful they are, very powerful because of their dragon lineage. And dragons are benevolent. Of course, the draconians are malevolent. So the dragons, I call them in, but also the rhinoceros, I call it in. And there are very powerful spirits who are holding the space. And therefore, I know that only the highest vibrations of energies, love and light, truth and wisdom, and also joy, are coming in my space. And when I'm in this mode, then I say a little prayer and I invoke spirits, and then I know that the energies, only the highest energies can come. So 5D and up, no lower energies. I'm not connected to them at all. So when I ask questions and when I'm diving into a soul spirit, then only good vibrations are coming through. Of course, sometimes there are a little bit like blockages, and I have clearing statements that I provide to my clients, which they say themselves out loud, and sometimes I do a little praying ritual. But I'm only connected to higher energies, and I'm very sure of that. And one of the things you really have to get used to is having faith and trust, and that's really also a basic of connecting. But I acknowledge the negative entities. Of course, there are a lot of negative entities, and for example, speaking about the rhinoceros, they are the guardians of negative portals, and that's why they are hunted down in Africa, and not only for their horns, but also because they possess this really higher magical power. So, yeah, I'm not doing it alone, and therefore, the sacred space is really a must in the work that I do.
So what would you say to somebody who just, I mean, is coming in, maybe they want to do something like this out of like novelty, right? Like the same
Hmm.
as maybe coming to a, you know, what do they call those people? Like a palm reader or
Hmm.
a psychic, right? Like, and they come in and they really have no sort of belief in any of the like the, draconian piece or the, right, like the guardians, right? Like, what would you say to somebody who's coming in from, just a headspace of like, this sounds crazy to me, like, right? Like, what would you say to that person? Um, yeah.
Well, nowadays I'm not saying anything. I don't want to convince anyone of the other realms being here. And I know they are here, and also the elemental realms, the fairies and the gnomes, and they are here, and they are willing to help us. But I think it's very important that you um, be cautious as well, because I wouldn't advise anyone to use a Ouija board or to, because these are really modalities for opening portals, and since you have no idea what you're opening, you shouldn't be doing that. So you have to be very mindful as well what you're doing, and just like for you the psychedelics worked out perfectly, but they are not for everyone. So you really have to discern what's good for you in your path, and what is helpful for you right now. And there are a lot of tricksters also in the spiritual realm, also among shamans. And so some people are having a bad luck when they bump into someone like that, but you have to really um, use your own brain as well and your own gut feeling. If someone feels off, it is for you at that moment. And if it's not 100% yes, it's a no. So you shouldn't be doing it. I think it's very important to really discern and really feel and do some investigation and talk to other people, read about stuff, and do your own investigation. I think it's really important.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I think I look back at my psychedelic use and I hear exactly what you just said. I'm glad it worked out. I've
Hmm.
seen just since then, being involved in the mental health field, I have seen so many people who it did not work out for,
Yeah,
who came
yeah,
back different and changed and scarred. And, I think unfortunately, like the only way to really heal those wounds is to kind of go back into that space. And nobody wants to do that, right? So they're going to be carrying that stuff around, right? And I do think there's such a thing as like we have sometimes the mystical, and I would consider you a mystic. I don't know if you consider yourself a mystic, but
I never thought about myself like that, but
yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
thank you. It's a compliment.
I'm not one for titles and labels. I think it's very restrictive and kind of corny at a certain point. But uh, it blows my mind sometimes when I think about how wild and bizarre this reality is of ours,
Mm,
and how much we just take for granted and discount, that we're sitting on this marble in this, seemingly endless expanse. We're staring at infinity, looking up, and just like how wild it is that I'm this being with agency and I'm able to have this experience, right? And then be able to meditate and or do psychedelics or go into a shamanic trance or into the Akashic records and access these alternate dimensions of our reality. There's just so much of that I think we just chalk up to, oh, it's just imagination or it's just in your mind. And it's like the mind is an entirely different dimension and we're accessing that all the time. And
yeah,
it's like
absolutely.
we don't think about these things. I think the majority of people don't think about these things on that level. It's sort of relegated to this idea that it's just your mind, as if that
Mm.
is some sort of like just tiny little container that just holds all this in. It's like you do a heavy dose of mushrooms or LSD and you tell me it's just the mind.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think what you were saying is so absolutely true. And I always compare this life as, the Willy Wonka chocolate factory story. We won a really Wonka ticket, really, by coming down here. And we don't, of course, perceive it like that all the time because it can be very hard, this life. But it really, that's where gratitude comes in and being humble and really be grateful for what you have every day because it's not it's not normal to wake up the next day, right? And also your loved ones. And of course, I think you as well. We've seen people at a young age getting ill or getting to a car accident or whatever. So we have this life right now. We should be more grateful than we are because we take it for granted that we wake up the next day and that when we say goodbye to our loved ones, that we will see them 8 hours later. But it's often not the case, And with you talking about the mind is so powerful, and it all starts with the mind. Everything we see, it once began inside the mind. And with the mind and also imagination, I just spoke about this in one of my videos recently. If you're having a hard time like meditating, or if you want to, for example, train your clairvoyance and you have a hard time seeing things, try to begin with imagine it to be so, because that opens a portal for you to really train that. And using your mind in this way is very, very helpful. And I think we could use it a lot more for our benefit, really.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. I think it's a great place to start rounding the corner on this conversation. I've just had a really great time talking with you. It's so obvious. Um, in
Me
retrospect,
too.
like as soon as I reached out to you, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be a good conversation." I could
Me
feel it,
too.
you know?
Yeah. I'm so glad you asked, really. Thank you so much.
No,
I
yeah,
really had
of
a great
course.
time.
I really appreciate what you do. I respect the the commitment that you have for bringing that light into the world. I think,
Mm.
man, if the world had just a quarter of, you know, if we had a quarter more of Aishas in the world, right? Like it could be
Mhm.
such a better place. And it's not just you, it's just this, opening up to seeing things with a little more fluidity, with a little less rigidity, right? Opening up the imagination, opening up to these things. I think that I think that's the eventual path. Like you said, we're all going to eventually be light workers, right?
Yeah.
But it's just so beautiful to be able to watch you do your thing. And yeah, I
Mm.
just wanted to convey that I really respect what you do.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you. And for you as well, because you are out here as well and you're doing this. And I really appreciate it. So thanks for the opportunity to be on your podcast. And yeah, let's bring it out into the world.
Okay, I will.
It's been amazing talking to you, Adam. Really. Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
likewise. Likewise.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll talk to you soon.
Say thank you. Bye bye. Have a great one.
Bye, you too.